The ancient legend of Human's galaxy was vast, filled with countless species, each with their own history, their own legends, and their own stories. Among them was the tale of Earth and its people humans, but unlike the other species whose stories were clear and well documented, humanity's story had become a myth over time. For centuries, no one had seen or heard from humans, and the legend of their existence had slowly faded from memory. The myth of humanity spread across the stars, whispered in dark corners of space by old civilizations that once interacted with them. Some races claimed that humans were a race of warriors, known for their power and strength. Others said they were a peaceful species, kind and wise, offering help to those in need. And then there were those who believed that humans had never truly existed at all. They were simply stories, passed down through the ages, just another fairy tale for the galaxy to forget. The galaxy, with its vast expanse and endless wonders, had moved on. New species rose to power and old ones faded away, trade routes expanded, and peaceful alliances were forged. The once mythical human race was nothing more than a distant memory for most of the galaxy, something that had no place in the present. Yet there was one species that still remembered. The Zorathians, a race of highly intelligent beings, had spent years studying the old records, sifting through the ancient stories of the humans. Unlike others, they believed the legends were more than just myth. They believed humans were real and they believed they still existed. "They are no myth," said Zorith, the leader of the Zorathian people, his voice echoing in the council chamber. "I have seen the records, the ancient maps. Earth is real, and so are the humans. It is time we find them." His words were met with skeptical murmurs from the other members of the council. Many of them had heard the stories, but they, like most others, dismissed them as fanciful tales. "Why search for a race that might not even exist anymore?" asked a council member. "The galaxy is full of ancient myths. Why is this any different?" Zorith stood tall, his 6 arms crossed behind his back, a deep sense of purpose in his glowing red eyes. "Because if humans are real, they are a force we cannot ignore. I have seen enough to believe they are out there. We cannot let this opportunity slip away." The council fell silent. The other races had long accepted that Earth and its people were just a story. But Zorith's determination could not be ignored. The Zorathians were known for their intelligence and advanced technology. If they believed humans were out there, there had to be some truth to it. But still, the question remained: if humans were real, why had no one heard from them for so long? The journey to Earth undeterred by the doubts of the council, Zorith and his fleet began preparing for their journey. The Zorathian Armada, a massive fleet of highly advanced ships, set course for the coordinates that Zorith had uncovered in the ancient texts. They traveled through space, following old maps, long-forgotten pathways that led to Earth, a planet no one had visited in centuries. As they neared the coordinates, the excitement among the Zorathians grew. This was it, the moment when they would either prove that humanity was real, or confirm that the myths were just stories after all. Days turned into weeks as the Zorathian ships approached Earth's distant solar system. As they entered the system, the planets ahead looked like nothing special. The Zorathians were used to more advanced, vibrant worlds. Earth was a quiet, unassuming planet, its blue and green surface barely visible from space. Zorith stood at the command center of the lead ship, staring at the screen. "Prepare for arrival. We must be careful. If the humans are still here, we cannot afford to underestimate them." The tension was palpable as the fleet entered the atmosphere, their sensors scanning the planet below. The ships hovered over Earth's surface, waiting for any sign of life. Suddenly, something unexpected happened. One of the smaller Zorathian ships, as it passed over Earth's northern hemisphere, detected a faint signal. It was unlike anything they had encountered before. The crew was startled, unsure of what they had found. "It's a communication," one of the officers reported. "An old frequency, but it's clear. It's from Earth." Zorith's heart skipped a beat. Could it be, after all these years, after all the myths and the doubts, humans were real? The signal that had been lost to the galaxy for so long was now coming through, a faint but unmistakable sign that humanity had survived. The signal was distant, but it was strong. It was a beacon. "Earth is real," Zorith muttered to himself, "and they are waiting." The revelation as the Zorathian fleet descended further into the planet's atmosphere, a strange energy pulsed through the air. The once peaceful and dormant planet was now active, alive with something humanity had hidden for centuries. The myths of Earth, once dismissed as ancient legends, now began to take on a terrifying truth. The Zorathians were not prepared for what they would discover. Suddenly, a series of massive ships appeared from the shadows of Earth's atmosphere, emerging from what seemed to be hidden bases scattered across the planet. They were ships unlike anything the Zorathians had seen, sleek, advanced, and clearly built for war. The ships began to power up their engines, each one radiating a strange energy that shook the Zorathian fleet. "What is this?" one of the Zorathian commanders asked in disbelief. "These are not the ships of a peaceful race. These are warships." Zorath's face hardened as he realized what this meant. Earth had not only survived but had thrived in secret. The humans had been preparing, waiting for the day when they would need to defend themselves. The galaxy had thought them to be extinct, just a myth, but now the truth was undeniable. The Zorathian fleet began to retreat, but the humans would not allow them to leave. The warships powered up their weapons, and for the first time in centuries, the galaxy would understand humans were not myths. Asterisk, the first shock moment the Zorathian fleet realized Earth was not a myth. It was already too late. The first wave of humanity's warships emerged from Earth's atmosphere like a wall of silent death, their sleek, metallic surfaces gleaming under the light of the distant stars. The air in the Zorathian ships felt heavier as the realization sank in. Humans were no longer just a distant memory. "This is impossible," a Zorathian officer shouted, his voice trembling as he looked at the radar. "Their ships are enormous and advanced beyond anything we've ever seen." The enemy fleet, once so confident in their power, now found themselves surrounded by a fleet of ships so unexpected, so dangerous, that they couldn't help but feel a growing sense of dread. For centuries, the galaxy had thought of humans as nothing but myths, stories told in the forgotten corners of space. But now, they were facing the living, breathing nightmare that the legends had promised. Zorath, standing at the command center, remained calm despite the chaos, prepared to engage them. "They may have weapons we don't understand, but we cannot let them stop us. We have a fleet, and we will show them why they shouldn't have returned." But as the words left his mouth, the first blast tore through the silent space between them. A bright beam of energy shot out from one of the human ships, striking a Zorathian warship with terrifying precision. The alien ship shuddered as the beam split through its shields and into its core, detonating in a brilliant explosion that lit up the darkness of space. "Return fire," Zorath barked. "We will not be intimidated." The Zorathians fired back, unleashing a barrage of energy blasts toward Earth's fleet, but the humans were ready. They had prepared for this moment not just in terms of their weapons but in their tactics, their control, and their precision. Earth had been quiet for centuries, but they had been watching, waiting, building. One by one, the Zorathian ships began to fall. They couldn't keep up with the speed and firepower of Earth's warships. What had been a highly advanced and feared fleet now seemed slow and clumsy in comparison. Earth's ships dodged and weaved with ease, firing beams of intense energy that split the alien vessels apart. The first shot from Earth had been a warning, a strike that showed their power, but now it was clear the humans weren't just fighting for survival. They were fighting to prove something, the awakening of Earth's fury from their hidden base on Earth. The humans watched in silence. The ancient weapon, dormant for so long, had finally awakened. Earth's leaders, once thought of as weak and passive, were now orchestrating a war like no other. President Harris stood in the war room, watching the live feeds of the battle unfold. His face was unreadable, but inside, a fire burned. "We've waited too long. It's time the galaxy knew the truth about us. It's time to make them remember why humans aren't to be underestimated." Beside him, General Anderson analyzed the situation on the screens. "Their fleet is retreating, but we can't let them escape. We need to make sure this isn't just a message. We need to show the galaxy that humanity will never be a myth again." Dr. Winters, the diplomat who had once worked tirelessly for peace with the galaxy, now stood resolute beside them. "We can't just defeat them. We need to reshape the galaxy's understanding of us. We're not the weak species they thought we were. We're the ones who have been waiting, and now we will take our place among the stars." The galaxy watches across the galaxy. News of Earth's sudden and overwhelming strength spread like wildfire. Species that had once dismissed humanity as irrelevant began to question their own survival. The Conclave of the Stars, a coalition of the most powerful galactic species, called an emergency session to address the events unfolding around Earth. How could this happen? The Valerian ambassador demanded, his antennae twitching in agitation. "We thought they were myths. We thought they were extinct. It's a mistake to underestimate them." The Xanth representative replied, his voice tinged with fear. "They are not extinct, they're alive. And they've just proven they're more dangerous than we could have imagined." In the council chambers, a debate raged over how to respond. Some argued for an immediate counterattack, convinced that Earth's rise must be stopped before it could gain more power. Others, particularly the more peaceful races, feared that escalating this situation would only bring disaster. What if humanity is the key to uniting the galaxy? A diplomat from the Arcturian race asked. "We can't just destroy them, we need to understand them. Perhaps we can use their strength to protect the galaxy, not destroy it." But not everyone shared that view. The Zorathians, humiliated by Their defeat were preparing to retaliate, their fleets now regrouping and planning a second strike. Zorith, angry and desperate, turned to his own people for answers. We've underestimated them once. I won't let that happen again. We will make Earth pay for what they've done, he vowed. His eyes burning with a desire for vengeance, the final decision back on Earth, the battle raged on. The Zorathian fleet, despite their initial retreat, was not giving up. They had regrouped, and were now coming back with even more firepower, prepared to take Earth down once and for all. President Harris, General Anderson, and Dr. Winters knew the final decision was upon them. They had proven that humanity could survive and fight back, but now, they had to decide, should they continue this war and risk alienating the entire galaxy? Or should they show mercy and attempt to create a new path forward? We can't stop. Now, President Harris said, his voice filled with resolve. We've shown the galaxy that we will fight for our survival, but we can't stop there. We need to show them that we're not just warriors, we're a force that can change the galaxy. As the battle intensified, humanity's true power was revealed, not just as soldiers, but as a species capable of reshaping the balance of the galaxy. The question now wasn't whether humanity could win, but whether the galaxy would accept them or stand in their way. The galaxy's response. The galaxy was in turmoil. News of Earth's unexpected victory over the mighty Zorathian fleet spread like wildfire. The once dismissed humans had proven themselves to be far more than just a species of myths and legends. They had shown their strength, their tenacity, and their deadly resolve. The Zorathian defeat was just the beginning now. The galaxy had to reckon with humanity's rise to power. In the conclave of the stars, the political debates raged. The room was filled with representatives from all over the galaxy, their faces tense, their voices full of anger and fear. The galaxy's most powerful races had long prided themselves on their dominance. Now, they were forced to confront the reality that a new power had emerged, one they had never considered. We have to act fast. The Zamb leader, Zorith, said, his voice cold and commanding. Earth cannot be allowed to grow stronger. If we let them continue, they will overtake us all. The room fell silent. The Zamb had been humiliated. But they were not the only ones who feared humanity. The Valerian, known for their cutting-edge technology, looked uneasy as well. The Zorathians were one thing. The Valerian representative spoke with a quiet but fearful tone. But Earth is something different. Their weapons, their ships, they are unlike anything we've encountered before. We cannot risk them becoming a galactic power. A murmur of agreement spread through the chamber. It was clear that some factions wanted to act quickly, to crush Earth before they had the chance to fully awaken. But not everyone agreed with that approach. Some of the more peaceful factions, such as the Arcturians, believed that a more diplomatic approach was needed. We cannot make the same mistake twice, the Arcturian ambassador said, her voice calm but firm. The humans have proven that they are a force to be reckoned with. But we cannot forget the reason they rose in the first place. They were pushed. If we reach out to them now, we can form an alliance. Together, we can secure the future of the galaxy. Zorith scoffed at the idea. The Arcturians would prefer to cower and negotiate. But we do not have the luxury of time. If we don't act now, humanity will become a threat too powerful to contain. The alliance of survival. Despite the division in the conclave, a secret alliance began to take shape. Several species, those who had always seen humanity as a useful ally, or at least a neutral party, began to quietly approach Earth, hoping to turn the situation to their advantage. But Earth, despite the enormous challenge they now faced, did not back down. In the command center deep beneath Earth's surface, President Harris and his military leaders were reviewing the galaxy's response. It was clear the galaxy had reacted with fear, but that fear was not limited to Earth. Humanity had forced the galaxy's most powerful species to confront their own weaknesses. We've shaken the galaxy to its core, General Anderson said, a grim smile on his face. But the real challenge is what happens next. They won't stop until they destroy us or until they bend us to their will. We need to decide if we are going to let them walk all over us, or if we're going to stand and fight. Dr. Winters, the diplomat, nodded. The galaxy will never let us coexist peacefully. We've proven that we can fight, but now we need to think about the long term. If we're going to win, we need allies, whether the galaxy likes it or not. The room was filled with tension as President Harris looked at the map of the galaxy. The decisions ahead would shape humanity's future. We've made our move, he said, his voice steady but filled with resolve. Now it's time for the galaxy to make theirs. The rising tension as Earth prepared for what was to come. A new challenge emerged: the Guardians of the Nexus. The Guardians were a race of ancient beings who had remained neutral throughout most of Galactic history. Their primary purpose had always been to maintain the balance of the universe, but now, Earth's rise had disrupted that balance. And the Guardians knew that if humanity's power continued to grow, it could threaten the very fabric of existence. In the hidden depths of the galaxy, a meeting was taking place. The Guardians, wise and ageless, convened to discuss humanity's sudden emergence. They had watched Earth's rise with growing concern, and now they were considering the actions they would need to take. Humanity's power is unlike any we've seen, one of the Guardians said, his voice filled with both awe and fear. Their weapon has the potential to reshape the entire galaxy, to control time and space itself. We cannot allow this to continue. We must act swiftly, another Guardian responded. The balance is tipping. If we let Earth rise unchecked, it could mean the end of everything. They must be stopped before they understand the full extent of their power. But one Guardian, who had been silently observing, spoke up with a surprising suggestion. What? If humanity is the key to restoring balance, not destroying it? The room went silent. The idea that Earth could restore balance was one that none of the Guardians had considered. But the more they thought about it, the more it made sense. Earth's strength, tempered by its past suffering, might be the force needed to bring the galaxy into a new era. We must decide, the first Guardian said. The fate of the galaxy depends on what we choose, the battle of ideals. As the Guardians of the Nexus debated the fate of humanity, the galaxy continued to spiral toward war. The Conclave's armies were preparing to strike, and Earth's fleets were ready for retaliation. The battle lines were drawn, and the galaxy was now a place where only the strongest would survive. But as the factions within the galaxy made their final preparations, Earth's leaders knew one thing for certain: this fight was not just for survival, it was for the future of the galaxy itself. And humanity would make sure that no one ever underestimated them again. The shadow of power, the cosmic balance of the galaxy was crumbling. Earth's stunning victory over the Zerathian fleet had ignited a chain reaction that could not be undone. Humanity, once considered a myth, had now become a symbol of strength and defiance. But with this newfound power came a question that haunted President Harris and his closest advisors. What will humanity become inside the war room? The weight of their victory was starting to feel like a burden. Humanity's rise was no longer a question of survival, it was about domination. Every decision they made would now carry consequences both for themselves and for the rest of the galaxy. We've shown them our strength, General Anderson said, his voice cold and analytical as he studied the reports. Now, the question is, do we take this opportunity to lead? Or do we risk becoming the next target of every power in the galaxy? Dr. Winters, still haunted by the diplomatic failures that had led them here, stood by the window, gazing out at the stars. We're too powerful now to go unnoticed. They'll either try to form alliances with us or they'll try to crush us. Before we can grow too strong, the galaxy had already begun to fracture. The Zerathians, their pride wounded and their forces retreating, were plotting their return. The Valerian Collective, once skeptical of humanity's ability to defend itself, now saw Earth's power as a potential asset or a threat to their own position. And then there were the Guardians of the Nexus, the ancient race who had always stayed neutral in galactic affairs. Their warning had been clear: humanity's rise was unnatural and it had the potential to unravel the very fabric of the galaxy. The peaceful species that had once been Earth's allies now feared the humans they had helped defend. Earth had evolved from a humble peacekeeper to a fearsome power, and some wondered if this new humanity would be willing to sacrifice their ideals for total control. The rise of the Shadow Council in the hidden corners of the galaxy, far from Earth's watchful eye, a new alliance was being forged. The Shadow Council, an underground group of races who had always resented the dominance of the Conclave of Stars, saw humanity's rise as an opportunity to shift the balance of power in their favor. The Shadow Council was composed of outcasts, rogues, and forgotten species, all united by one common goal: to overthrow the galaxy's ruling powers and establish a new order. Their leader, Varrock, was a mysterious figure, his face always hidden behind a hooded cloak, his presence a whispered legend even among the most powerful galactic empires. The humans are the key. Varrock's voice echoed in the darkened chamber, his tone as cold as the space between the stars. The galaxy thinks they are our enemies, but they don't realize humanity's power can either bring about the galaxy's destruction or its salvation, and we are the only ones who can control them. Varrock had long studied humanity's rise, watching from the shadows as Earth's fleets moved across the galaxy. He understood one thing that the rest of the galaxy did not: humanity was not simply a threat. They were a force, and forces like that needed to be harnessed, controlled. The Shadow Council believed that if they could sway Earth into joining their ranks, they could reshape the galaxy's future, but they knew that gaining humanity's trust would require more than just words. It would take something far more powerful, an offering of immense value. The call to Earth. Back on Earth, President Harris had made a difficult decision. He knew the galaxy was watching them, but he had underestimated how quickly the galaxy would react. Within days of the battle, the first messages began arriving, messages from every corner of the galaxy, each one filled with both fear and hope. Some wanted to negotiate, others wanted to conquer. But one message stood out among the rest, an offer from the Shadow Council. "We offer you a future of power, of unity, and of control over your destiny," the message read. "Join us, and together we can shape the galaxy in your image. Stand with us, and we will be unstoppable." President Harris paced the floor, considering the message carefully. He had known that Earth's newfound strength would attract attention, but this was something different. The Shadow Council was not just another race looking for allies, they were a shadowy organization, operating from the fringes of the galaxy, where the established rules of the Conclave no longer applied. Dr. Winters, who had worked tirelessly for peace, stared at the message with suspicion. "Their offer sounds too good to be true," she said. "They want to use humanity as a pawn. They think we're a tool they can control." But General Anderson, always the pragmatist, saw a different angle. "We've made enemies of the galaxy's most powerful species. If we want to survive, we need allies. The Shadow Council might be our best chance to secure a future for Earth." The room was divided. Harris knew that Earth couldn't stand alone forever, but could they really trust the Shadow Council? Would joining them mean becoming just another player in a galaxy full of power-hungry species? Or would it give Earth the chance to forge its own path? The call of Destinizereth, the Zerathian leader, wasn't about to let Earth slip through his grasp. He watched as humanity's ships grew in power, each new advancement making the galaxy's greatest threat seem more and more inevitable. He understood one thing better than most: the universe would never accept humanity as equals. Unless they were forced to, we must strike before Earth becomes too powerful to contain. Zorith muttered to his fleet commanders, "The humans think they control the galaxy. It's time to remind them of their place." But Zorith was not the only one planning Earth's downfall. The galaxy had its own internal politics. And as the Shadow Council gathered its forces, new, more dangerous factions began to emerge, some from the farthest reaches of space, others from within the heart of the Conclave. The battle for control of the galaxy was now a race against time. And the human race was at the center of it all, the unseen truth. Meanwhile, deep within the Guardians of the Nexus, ancient records began to surface, revealing startling truths about the power humanity had awakened. The Nexus, the force humanity had unknowingly tapped into, was far older than any species in the galaxy had realized. It was a force that had shaped the course of the universe since the beginning of time itself. The Guardian's role had always been to protect this force, to ensure that no species could control it, especially not one as unpredictable as humanity. "They have no idea what they've unleashed," one Guardian murmured. "If they continue to harness the Nexus, the entire galaxy will be forever changed." As Earth continued to wrestle with its new identity as a power in the galaxy, the reality of the force they had awakened began to settle into their minds. The battle for control of the Nexus and humanity's future had only just begun. The weight of power. The space above Earth was a canvas of chaos. Massive fleets clashed, sending shockwaves through the quiet expanses of space. Humanity had forced the galaxy to confront the fact that they were no longer the myths they had once been. Earth was now a force, a juggernaut that could either bring the galaxy to its knees or raise it to new heights. But with this power came a terrible cost. The struggle for control was about to test humanity's very soul. In Earth's underground command centers, the leadership was torn. President Harris stood before a massive, glowing display of the galaxy, the star systems now at the forefront of humanity's thoughts. The Shadow Council's offer echoed in his mind: "Join us, and you will reshape the galaxy, but at what price? We need to make a decision." General Anderson said, his tone serious as he studied the new fleet configurations on the map. "The Shadow Council wants us, the Conclave wants us destroyed. And Zorith, he's already planning another assault. We cannot stay neutral any longer." Dr. Winters, who had always believed in diplomacy, clenched her fists as she looked out of the command center's view. "We've waited too long to be pushed around. But do we really want to be tied to those who've always seen us as pawns? The Shadow Council may offer us power, but can we trust them to lead us, or will they control us?" The room fell silent. Harris stood still, his hands clasped behind his back, staring out into the vastness of space. "We can't deny our power, but we also cannot forget who we are. We are humans, not conquerors, not destroyers. We need a choice that reflects our values, the rise of the Nexus far beyond Earth's borders." In the forgotten void of space, the Guardians of the Nexus made a fateful decision. They had long watched over the force that now lay within humanity's reach. The nexus of primordial power capable of reshaping the very laws of reality was humanity's inheritance, but also their greatest curse if left unchecked. It could tear the fabric of the galaxy apart. Earth cannot control the nexus, one of the guardians said, his voice deep and resonant. No species can. It is not meant to be wielded by any race. If they continue to use it, they will destroy themselves, just as so many others have before them. The guardians had hidden this power from the galaxy for millennia, understanding the dangers it posed. Now, they knew that the humans, through sheer will, through their relentless survival, had stumbled upon the key to unlocking it. Earth's victory over the Zerathians and the Conclave's factions was not just a triumph. It was an omen. Humanity was becoming something more. And this power was growing inside them faster than anyone realized. We must intervene, another guardian replied, her eyes glowing with urgency. If we do not stop them, they will break the universe itself. We cannot let the Nexus fall into their hands, betrayals and alliance back on Earth. The situation was becoming even more complicated. The decision to form an alliance with the Shadow Council was still on the table. But there were those within humanity's ranks who feared what that would mean. The message from the Conclave had been clear. Earth's rise to power would not go unchallenged. They would fight back, and their retaliation would be swift and unforgiving. The Conclave won't stop until they destroy us, General Anderson said to his most trusted officers. We can't trust their promises of peace. They want one thing, to subjugate us, to use our power for their own benefit. But not everyone agreed. Dr. Winters, who had always believed in the value of diplomacy, continued to argue that there was a way forward that didn't require joining forces with a shadowy faction. We've always believed in peace, she said, looking at Harris. We cannot abandon our ideals for power. There has to be another way to unite the galaxy, a way that doesn't involve betrayal. Harris, torn between his own ideals and the reality of their situation, finally spoke. The galaxy may never accept us for what we truly are, but we can't let that define us. If we fight, we must fight for what is right, not for domination. Yet the shadow of the Shadow Council loomed large. Their message had been tempting for some in the darker corners of Earth's military leadership. There were whispers of allegiance, of using the Nexus as a weapon to dominate the stars. The battle for Earth's soul had begun. Would humanity remain true to their peaceful roots, or would they embrace their newfound power and risk becoming the very thing they had once fought against? The Conclave strikes back. Time for diplomacy was rapidly running out. The Conclave of Stars, in their panic over Earth's newfound power, made their first move. The galaxy's most powerful fleet, led by Zorith and his allies, moved toward Earth's borders. Their mission was simple: crush Earth before it could become a true threat. They will never accept us as equals, Zorith said to his fleet commanders, the edge of his voice sharp with anger. We will show them what happens when they challenge the established order. Earth must fall. The Conclave had underestimated humanity before, but they would not make that mistake again. With their forces now gathered, the galaxy's greatest battle was about to unfold, one that would decide the fate of Earth and the very future of the galaxy itself. The first strike as Earth's fleet prepared to face the Conclave's incoming assault. There was an eerie silence on Earth's side. Humanity's warships, sleek and powerful, waited in the dark expanse of space, their engines running silent. The first strike would not come in the form of an assault, it would come in the form of a message. The massive alien fleet came into view, but as it neared Earth's borders, an unexpected wave of energy blasted across the space around them. Earth's weapon, the Nexus, was fully activated. What is this? Zorith asked in disbelief, his eyes wide as the first wave of the Nexus power tore through the Conclave ships. Their weapons fell silent, their shields crumbling under the onslaught. Humanity's true power had been unlocked, and it was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Earth's fleet fired not just with weaponry, but with the raw energy of the Nexus, unraveling the enemy's ships in ways that defied the laws of physics. The path forward in the chaos of the battle, one thing became clear: Earth had crossed the point of no return, no longer a myth, no longer a peaceful race. Humanity had shown the galaxy that they were a force capable of reshaping the very fabric of the universe. President Harris, standing in the war room, looked out across the battlefield. The universe was changing, and humanity was at the center of it all. But as the conflict continued, a deeper question loomed over Earth's future. Would they continue this war, or would they find a way to unite the galaxy under their banner? The universe had never seen a species like humanity before, but now, the galaxy was learning the hard way. Humans were no longer just survivors. They were kings and queens of a new order. The shattered Balanceth galaxy was on the verge of collapse as Earth's newfound power surged. Its effects reverberated across the stars. The Nexus, the source of humanity's power, had been awakened. But its unpredictable force was starting to reveal its darker side. The once hopeful future of galactic cooperation now seemed like a distant dream, as factions scrambled to either control or destroy humanity's growing influence. "We've awoken a power we can't fully control," General Anderson muttered as he observed the growing chaos. The battlefield was far from over, and Earth's ships, powered by the Nexus, had become unstoppable to fast, to lethal, to overwhelming. The Conclave had underestimated them once, and now it seemed like the universe would pay the price. But humanity was not just facing a galaxy in revolt. They were facing the consequences of their own decisions. The Nexus was a weapon one they didn't fully understand. Its power could reshape the galaxy, but if they lost control of it, they risked bringing destruction not just to their enemies but to their entire world. "This is no longer about defeating an enemy," Dr. Winters said, her voice filled with worry as she watched Earth's forces continue to overpower the Conclave ships. "This is about surviving the power we've unleashed." The cosmic reckoning as the battle for Earth raged on. The Guardians of the Nexus were forced to make a choice. Their centuries-old mission had been to protect the balance of the universe, to ensure no single race could control the Nexus. But now, humanity had unlocked its power, and the galaxy's most ancient force could no longer stand by and watch. "The humans have awakened the Nexus," one of the Guardians said, his voice heavy with regret. "And we can no longer allow them to wield it unchecked. If Earth continues down this path, we risk the very existence of the galaxy itself." The Guardians knew the true nature of the Nexus better than anyone. It was a force of creation and destruction, older than any civilization in the galaxy. It had the power to reshape the stars, to rewrite history, but in the wrong hands, it could lead to chaos, a galaxy consumed by its own ambition. "We must act," the lead Guardian said. "If humanity is allowed to control the Nexus, they will become the rulers of the galaxy, but their rule will not be benevolent. It will be absolute. We must stop them before it's too late." The decision was made. The Guardians would intervene. The unexpected allegiance as Earth's military forces were closing in on the final stages of the war. An unexpected message arrived, this time from a faction within the Conclave of the Stars. The message came through encrypted channels, a communication that was coded but unmistakable. "The galaxy cannot continue this path. We have been wrong about humanity. They are not our enemies, they are our future," the message read. "Join us, and we can shape a new order of balance between power and peace. Humanity's rise is the answer to the galaxy's stagnation." The message came from an unlikely source, the Arcturians, a species known for their peaceful ideology and long-standing alliances with Earth. But what they proposed was beyond anything humanity had anticipated. They believed that Earth's power, harnessed by the Nexus, could bring about the next age of galactic unity. "The Arcturians are trying to get us to join them, to create a new galactic order," Dr. Winters said, her voice filled with a mix of hope and caution. "But can we trust them, or is this just another ploy to control us?" President Harris, his face weary but resolute, considered the proposal. "We have to be careful," he said, his voice low but firm. "The Arcturians see us as a means to an end. They want the power the Nexus offers. But can we afford to let them dictate our future?" The idea of forging an alliance with the Arcturians was tempting after all. Their peaceful stance and history with Earth made them a natural partner. But Harris knew that such an alliance would come at a price. The Nexus was not a tool to be used lightly, and it could easily turn from a beacon of hope into a weapon of tyranny if not kept in check. The betrayal within as the discussions about alliances and power took place on Earth. A darker plot was unfolding within the human ranks. Unbeknownst to President Harris and his trusted military advisors, a faction within Earth's military was already planning its own future, a future where Earth would not just survive, but dominate the galaxy. These were the humans who had embraced the power of the Nexus without hesitation. Those who believed that the galaxy's failure to acknowledge Earth's strength meant that humanity should rule it instead. "Why should we settle for being pawns?" one of the high-ranking officers, Commander Bryce, whispered to his allies as they sat in a darkened room, far from the eyes of Earth's leadership. "We have the Nexus, we can control the galaxy. Bend it to our will. Why let the Arcturians decide our fate when we can create our own destiny?" Bryce and his followers were determined to take control of Earth's future by any means necessary. They had already begun to make moves, secretly gaining control of key military assets and weapons. The peace talks and diplomatic discussions were just distractions, a way for them to seize power when the time was right. "We don't need to rely on anyone," Bryce said, a dangerous glint in his eyes. "Earth is ours to rule, and the galaxy will bow before us." The galactic confrontation with the Nexus now fully in play, and humanity's power no longer a secret, the galaxy had no choice but to react. The Zerothian fleet, once defeated but still humiliated, had rallied behind the conclave and was preparing for a final strike. Earth's rapid rise to power had shaken the foundations of everything the galaxy's leaders had built. Zorith, still seething from his defeat, rallied his forces. "We will crush them once and for all," he vowed. "This time, they will understand the consequences of challenging the galaxy's order. We will not let them control the Nexus, not now, not ever." The stage was set for the final confrontation. Earth, armed with the unimaginable power of the Nexus, was poised to either conquer the galaxy or become its salvation. The galaxy's fate would be decided not by diplomacy but by the power humanity now wielded. The weight of the crowned battle for the galaxy was no longer just a fight for survival. It was a battle for control. Humanity's rise had sent shockwaves across the stars. But now Earth was facing the harsh reality of what it meant to be the galaxy's most powerful species. The war with the Conclave and the forces loyal to Zorith was escalating, and President Harris knew that Earth was at a crossroads. The message from the Arcturians had been clear: join them and together we could reshape the galaxy in a new image. But the faction within Earth's military, led by the ambitious Commander Bryce, had made their own plans that involved using the Nexus to dominate the stars. The internal divide between those who wanted to unite the galaxy and those who wanted to rule it was growing wider every day. In the war room, President Harris stood alone before a massive holographic map of the galaxy. His fingers hovered over the glowing symbols of Earth's fleets, the ships that had once been silent defenders but were now harbingers of unimaginable power. The weight of the decision pressed down on him. What kind of leader would he become? "We've come so far," Dr. Winters said quietly, watching him from across the room. "But we can't forget who we are. We can't let the Nexus control us. It should be a tool for peace, not a weapon for tyranny." General Anderson, standing at his side, looked at the map with grim determination. "We've already used the Nexus once. We can't put that genie back in the bottle. There's no going back. The galaxy already fears us." His voice was full of resolve. "We either stand and lead, or we become just another empire fighting for dominance." Harris sighed deeply, his gaze turning toward the stars. "But at what cost? The Nexus is too powerful, too unpredictable. If we continue to use it, we risk becoming the very thing we've fought against." The decision was not one he could make lightly. His people had fought for survival, had fought to protect their home. But now, they were no longer just defending, they were deciding the fate of the entire galaxy. The call for war across the galaxy, the response to Earth's power, was becoming increasingly hostile. Zorith's forces, humiliated by their defeat, had regrouped and were now preparing for their final assault on Earth, the Conclave of Stars. Once Earth's allies were now divided. Some sought to form an uneasy alliance with humanity, hoping to avoid further conflict. But Zorith, the newly crowned leader of the United Alien Forces, refused to back down. "They cannot be allowed to rule," Zorith declared, his voice low and filled with venom. "Earth has shown its hand, and we must act before they become the dominant force in the galaxy. We will strike them now, while they are still vulnerable." The threat of a final battle loomed large. The galaxy's most powerful forces were gathering, and Earth's defenses were preparing for an all-out war. The Nexus, still a volatile force, pulsed in the background, its energy radiating through Earth's military as the battle lines were drawn. "This is our moment, General," Anderson said, his voice a hard edge of authority. "We have to hold the line. We either survive as a free species or fall to the galaxy's might." But within Earth's ranks, something more sinister was brewing. Commander Bryce, the ambitious military leader who had long believed that humanity should dominate, was growing restless. He saw the Nexus as the key to not only winning the war but reshaping the entire galaxy. "We don't need to fight for survival anymore," Bryce whispered to his closest allies, standing in the shadow of Earth's fleet. "We have the power to end this war on our terms. We don't have to negotiate. We'll rule the stars." Bryce's words were dangerous, but they found an audience within the military. Earth's most loyal soldiers, those who had grown weary of endless diplomacy and resistance, began to rally behind Bryce's vision. The internal struggle for Earth's future had begun, not just between the galaxy's powers, but within the heart of humanity itself. The collapse of diplomacy back in the Galactic Council. The mood was tense. The Arcturians had extended their hand once more, offering humanity a chance to join their peaceful coalition, to help build a galaxy of cooperation and mutual respect. But now, Earth was on the brink of war with the Conclave, and the choice was no longer clear. "We cannot let humanity fall to tyranny," the Arcturian ambassador said, his voice filled with concern. "We must find a way to convince Earth to join us, to lead with peace instead of power." "And if they refuse?" the Xanth representative asked, his tone harsh. "We must stop them before they tear the galaxy apart." The power they now wield is beyond our control, the debate raged on. But the galaxy had already been divided. Some species still believed humanity's rise could be a force for good, while others saw them as the greatest threat to galactic stability. The galaxy's fate rested on a knife's edge, and Earth was poised to tip it one way or the other. The final showdown as Earth's warships prepared for battle and the galaxy's forces began to converge on the planet. A strange silence fell over the battlefield. The power of the Nexus still pulsed beneath Earth's surface, a ticking clock that could either save humanity or destroy it. The internal conflicts within Earth's leadership only added to the tension. "We can't let the galaxy destroy us," President Harris said, his voice filled with an unshakable resolve. "But we can't let this power destroy us either. We must choose the right path for our people." And for the galaxy, the final battle was drawing near. The outcome would not just decide the fate of Earth, but the fate of the galaxy itself. Would humanity emerge as the saviors of the galaxy, or would they become the rulers of it? Consumed by the very power they had unlocked as the galaxy's forces lined up for one final assault, humanity stood ready to face its greatest test. The question remained, would they wield the power of the Nexus to unite the galaxy or tear it apart?